If I said, Daron, I'm going to teach you to be passionate about knitting, no matter what I say, you're not going to be that person because that's not who you were born to be.
Yeah.
To make you passionate about percussion, to make you passionate about leadership, to make you passionate about music, I didn't do any of that. It was already there. I gave you the space and the time to find it and bring it out.
Welcome to the Daron Earlewine podcast, where we awaken you to become who you were born to be. Here's your host, Daron Earlewine.
Hey, welcome back to the Daron Earlewine podcast. So stoked to have you guys here. The crowd is hyped, ready to go, because it's a two-part episode. We're back again with Scott Lang, my high school band director. Scott Lang, now a leadership guru across the nation, helping kids understand the power of musical education and leadership, and helping music educators become the best people they can be. Such great stuff. Go check out all of Scott's stuff, and it's all in the page notes and in the show notes. You can check it out. And it's episode 46, and we're excited to be back. And I've enjoyed reminiscing in my own mind about marching band during the past couple episodes. There may be people in my life. Very close to me. Maybe they share my last name. Maybe they are my offspring that like to make fun of me and my marching band life. And there's, you know what? You can laugh. I hear you laughing right now. You're laughing. I hear it in my ears. It's not a joke. Marching band is real. I love marching band. It's way more difficult than you think it is, and it's awesome, specifically if you're a drummer. I don't know if you play piccolo, flute, probably not as awesome, but as drummer, it was awesome. I loved it. I learned so much about discipline. I learned so much about excellence. I learned so much about music and leadership. And a big part of that was from Mr. Lang. And I wish we had an episode where he would have just told stories of dumb stuff that we did in that time. But you know what? You don't need to hear my dumb stories. You had your own dumb stories when you were a kid and you did dumb stuff. And in fact, you may have some of your own stories right now of when you're still doing dumb stuff. And today we're going to talk about how do we choose to actually become the person that we're created to be. What Scott Lang's going to go do in this episode, part 2 of our last episode. If you haven't gone back and listened to episode 45 with Scott Lang, you need to go listen to that episode and then fast forward and get into this episode, because what he does in this episode, he's going to actually take me through the process he talked about in the first episode in workshop. It's basically, this is kind of a workshop episode where he's going to go through and take me through looking at the blessings and curses in my life and how I can leverage and actually manage around those to develop the life that I was created to live. And how do I take the things that I specifically learned and took away from quarantine and from the year of COVID and actually allow them to not be lost, but actually allow them to be leveraged to take the next steps to become who I was born to be. You're going to enjoy this. It's going to be high paced, and I want you to engage in it. Okay, I don't want you just to listen to this episode. I want you to do the work along with me and Scott Lang. You will be glad you did. Want to jump into the mailbag real quick. Mailbag, I want to listen. We'll give a shout out to listener Nick, who reached out and said how inspirational and how encouraging the episode with Rashad Cunningham was, and just how it helped him get his mind and his heart around identity and who he really was. Nick's in a transitional phase of life, making some major transitions in life, trying to kind of get back on the path that he knows that God's calling him to. And he's trying to figure out, am I this guy, the guy that some people think that I am? Or am I this guy? Am I the guy that identifies with my mistakes? And he's just in a very courageous season of life. And Nick, if you're listening, believe in you, man, praying for you. Thanks for listening to the podcast. Thanks for reaching out through Facebook. And, if you haven't listened back to the episode with Rashad Cunningham, powerful stuff. And if you're in a place right now where you're trying to figure it out, maybe you made some big mistakes. Maybe you're going through a major transition. Maybe you're coming out of a divorce. Maybe you're coming out, maybe you're stepping back into the workforce after you've been staying home with kids or something. Maybe you just graduated from college. Maybe you just graduated from high school. I don't know what it could be, but you're at a place where maybe you're coming out of prison. Maybe listening to the podcast while you've been incarcerated. Come back out to try to get back into life. Whatever it is, whatever major transition you're going through, I want you to be encouraged by what Nick said, that he's searching for his true identity. and to step into that. We're going to talk about that today. But Nick, thanks for listening. Thanks for reaching out. I'd love to hear from you. I say it all the time. Some of you are taking me up on it. I appreciate it. I'd love to get to the point in the podcast where I'm like, listen, guys, I can't respond to everybody's emails because there's too many of them. Because I love pouring this content out, believing that it's making a difference in your life. But when I don't hear from you, I don't know if it's doing anything. I believe in faith, but I love to hear from you. So you can email me, Daron, Daron. That's how you spell my name. Daron at blackbirdmission.com, or you can also text me 317-550-5070, or you can reach out through Facebook or Instagram or Twitter. All of those work. So thanks for listening, guys. Thanks for downloading the episode, whether it's through wherever you get your audio podcast, right here on YouTube, Spotify, whatever it may be. Thanks for downloading it. Thanks for subscribing, and thanks for leaving reviews, all of you that are reviewing the podcast. Here's where we're going today. We're going to workshop what I learned and took away from COVID. And here's the context I want you to step into this episode with episode 46 here, part 2 of my interview with Scott Lang is this. God has created you on purpose and for a purpose. We say that every week. That's not new. You're like, I get it, Daron. I've memorized it. It's on the freaking coffee mug. Speaking of the coffee mug, if you want one of these bad boys, join us as a financial investor in the podcast and in our ministry, Blackbird Mission, as we reach people around the world, awakening them to become who they're born to be. I want to thank you that have joined us this summer to help us close up the financial gap to be able to continue on with the podcast and everything we're doing. If you join us, not only will you get information every month about what's going on behind the scenes here at Blackbird Mission, but we'll send you one of these mugs and more gifts to come. But you can check that out. You can give at blackbirdmission.com/give. That's a place where you can give and go to the drop-down menu and select the Daron Earlewine podcast. But you create it on purpose and for purpose. But here's the deal. You have to choose it. God has created it, but you have to choose it. And this is where the rubber meets the road, friends. Because I promise you and tell you every single week of all the things that God has done in and through you, and you hear these people's stories that we listen to, and one of the common themes is, they always go back and they see that God was at work early on in their childhood. They were always gifted and talented and called to these things when they were little, because God's call and his gifts are irrevocable. They're in you, they're woven within your physical DNA. They're woven within your spiritual DNA. But here's the cold, hard truth. You have to choose it. Meaning you have to be engaged in it, meaning you have to step into the process. It doesn't happen by accident. It doesn't happen by accident. You're not going to stumble your way accidentally, not even trying, into God's call for your life, or to really become who you were born to be, not just with your competencies, but with your character. And so what Scott Lane's going to take us through is actually going and writing down, stopping long enough to look back and reflect and write down what are 4 of the 5 things that were different in your life because of COVID, that you don't want to lose, that you don't want to miss, so that you can actually leverage and continue on to the next steps to become who you're born to be. Because if we don't stop and take and not hope, right? I've said this before, I'll say it again. Hope's not a plan. It's not original with me. I stole it from somebody else, but it's not. I just hope that by next year, I'll have that business start. I just hope by next year, I'll be better at my marriage. I just hope by next year, I'll be fill in the blank with whatever you're hoping for next year. Hope is great, but it's not a plan. And God wants to come alongside you and help you choose to make the practical steps to actually step into the calling he has of your life. And, what I thought about as I was thinking through this was just that process of maturing. And one of the things that I talk about here, and you'll hear in this episode as I talk to Scott Lang, is I'm just thanking him for the investment he made in me as from a 13-year-old to an 18-year-old in high school, and giving him a lot of credit for what he poured into me. And what he says is, hey, thanks for saying thank you. But the reality is everything that you've become was already in you, Daron. I just gave you the time and the space to walk into it and to choose it. And it made me think of a passage in 1 Corinthians 13, and that's a famous chapter of the Bible where where Paul's talking about. It's the famous love chapter that you hear all the time at weddings. But as Paul goes on into verse 11 of chapter 13, he says this: When I was a child, I spoke about childish matters, for I saw things like a child and I reasoned like a child. But the day came when I matured and I set aside my childish ways. That's a choice, friend. Paul's saying, hey, when I was a kid, I did things like this and probably wasn't, all that great. And then I came to a place where I matured and I set aside my childish ways. I made a choice to become more of who God had created me to be. And he says, for now we see a faint reflection of riddles and mysteries as though reflected in a mirror, but one day we will see face to face. My understanding is incomplete now, but one day I will understand everything, just as everything about me has been fully understood. He's talking about God. He's talking about love, but it can be applied to your calling and what God's doing in your life. Right now, you see things through a glass dimly lit. And someday, right, when we see Jesus face to face and we're with him in eternity, this whole process of purpose, it'll all make sense. We'll all see the ins and outs of it. But right now, we don't. But he goes on and says this, but until then, there are three things that remain: faith, hope, and love. Yet love surpasses them all. So above all else, let love be the beautiful prize for which you run. Right? He put away the childish. He chose the maturity. He stepped into it. He's looking towards the future, but he's making the choice to put faith and hope and love above all things else and run. These are choices. God has created you on purpose and for a purpose. There's a great mission waiting for your life to be fulfilled, but you have to choose it and you have to engage in the process. That is what you're going to have the chance to do today in this two-part, second part of the interview with Scott Lang. Let's get in. Let's make it happen. You hear me, you've listened to me babble for 10 minutes. Now it's time to listen to Scott. Just get fired up and workshop it. If you're doing something else, listen to this episode and I want you to sit down and I want you to take notes. I want to see this in a journal. I want to see it in an email to me. Write this stuff down that we're going through in this episode so you're ready to make the choices to move forward to become who you were born to be. God created, you choose it. Let's go. Episode 46, the Daron Earlewine podcast with part 2 of Scott Lang. Here we go.
All right, let's make it real. So Daron,
Yes.
give me 3, 4, 5 things that changed because of COVID that you want to be there forever. What are 3 blessings of COVID? And again, that's not to minimize tragedy and loss, but
No. I think one of them for me,
in order to derive meaning.
I think one of them for me was realizing that the pace that I thought life had to function in doesn't. Like I can slow down everything that I'm doing and what needs to be done or what's supposed to get done is going to get done. So I think pace of life changed for me. That I don't want that to be lost.
Give me a family thing.
I think I became even more committed to maintaining and valuing and investing in our family as a relationship. Because what we realized after 8 weeks or whatever in quarantine is like, even though we were on each other's nerves, we still liked each other. And it was this like affirmation of, you know what, we're doing this okay, and let's make sure whatever we do, we never stop valuing the relationships together because they were the thing that could sustain us. So valuing and investing in us as a relationship together was another one.
Okay, give me a Daron thing, a hobby, something you learned or did spend more time doing. Did you play drums more? Did you find a beverage you liked? Did you cheer for a team more? Did you develop an interest in something?
This is really lame, but I realized that I realized that taking walks makes me think clearer, makes me more creative, and brings me peace.
That is fantastic.
Yeah, I went on walks before, but like I walked my dog every day for months, like 3 miles a day, and I realized like this is therapeutic and it's unlocking new things in my brain.
Okay, so it gave you alone time. So last, give me a financial thing. Maybe you ate out less, or you saved more, or you watched things, or you canceled subscriptions, or what?
Yeah,
Give me a financial thing.
we did all of that. We saved a ton of money. We canceled a bunch of stuff, and we were able to actually use those savings to finish the basement in our house, which we hadn't been able to do for 6 years.
There you go. So there's 5 things that you want to continue to do moving forward. You want to spend more time alone. You want to strengthen relationships with your family. You want to let things happen at the pace that they were supposed to happen in. Um, and you want to save more money on things that are short term and spend them on things that are long term.
There we
Okay.
go.
If you don't write those things down and purposefully commit to them, they will dissipate. So start by writing those 5 things down as soon as we're off.
Yeah.
Or if you don't, you don't. If you don't find it valuable, but write those things down so that you know what the lessons learned are.
Yes.
You know, the reason I presume you go back and read the Bible or passages over and over is because that the lesson is still not fully learned. So we talk about write things that you don't want to change post-COVID. Okay, so let's talk about blessings and curses.
Okay.
Darren, what are the 3 blessings? And setting aside love of family, your wife, that your relationship with your God,
Right.
but as a person, you came out into the world. What are 3? And they don't have to be the penultimate. What are the 3 things that you just love doing and you're good at? What are they?
Speaking,
Okay.
playing drums, and I would say creative, creating like creative moments for people, like specifically in live events, like being able to create a memorable, impactful type moment.
Okay. Give me, and these are fantastic answers. You're going to know why in a second. Give me 3 curses.
I can't stay focused to save my life.
Boy, I don't know what that's like. Who are
I,
you again? I
yeah,
don't know, remember why I'm here.
I
Okay,
often
can't stay focused.
I often default to thinking that either my ideas or I myself are more important than other people.
Yep. By the way, that's an occupational hazard when you stand on stage and people cheer your name all the time. It's hard not to have an ego. I mean,
it's hard
how
not to have an
often
ego. Yeah, yeah. It's hard not to have an ego.
How often do you get booed, Daron Earlewine? How often have you been booed? Not often.
Not often.
You know, when you just walk in a room and people are like, oh my God, look at that beard. Jesus, the hair, right? I mean, like, it's how do you not have an ego? Like, and you almost need, they say a doctor needs that ego to safely do surgery. They have to believe they're the only ones who can keep you alive.
Yeah.
So, okay. So focus and centric. I just went off topic, so I'm there with you. What's the 3rd one? 3 curses.
Uh,
Are you detail oriented?
Detail oriented? No.
Yes.
No.
Okay. So the reason I say you're doing a fantastic job is because you've created a life where you've taken your speaking ability and your ability to make music to create incredible experiences for people online, on a blog, in a church, in a bar.
Yep.
Like you've done that. So you're living according to your blessings. And your curses are relatively obvious because you lose focus, you're self-centric, and you're not detail-oriented, which is why your assistant set everything up. I never talked to you until I turned on the Zoom call. You've designed your life correctly.
Wow.
And that doesn't mean it can't be even more expansive and more explosive. And I would challenge you to what are more like, and you've done an amazing job. You know, and this is a process I go through and I struggle with. Like, you've created this this barroom pub theology. That's incredible. Okay, what's the next building? Where's the next space that needs Daron Earlewine? Where are the group of people living that are most in need? So taking that thing now, where can there be different experiences? What if Daron Earlewine bought a retreat and did weekend retreats? What if Daron Earlewine, you know, traveled to places of need or crisis or critical, Miami, Florida. Right now, there's 100. And I'm not suggesting that you should do anything. So my point is, you've designed your life correctly. You've designed it to maximize your blessings and minimize your curses. So you're in the right space and doing the right thing. Now, how do we add gasoline to your fire? How do we grow not only the breadth and the depth, but the intensity of what you're doing and the impact that you're having? And that's as you walk your dog, and as I sit on my back porch staring at the trees, what I'm working on. So Daron, I'll brainstorm with you.
Yeah.
Curricula, online curricula for pub theology for adults, online curricula for kids, that you could create to reach people worldwide. A virtual ministry, a visual ministry based in other art forms, other mediums, creative ministry that let's create music together and talk about how it influences our belief in our creator or our theology or our whatever that is. So I would challenge you, since you're living your blessings and curses correctly. You're living the life you were designed and meant to live. And I don't believe in predestined. I'm not advocating for that, but I think you were given a set of tools.
Yeah.
And you are using your tools in the right way and in the right space. And the tools that you don't have, you're getting other people to take care of those problems. So I love what you're doing. And I love it because it's right for you. I love it because you were the person that was meant to do it. It's easy to say, well, it's a great idea. It's not the idea. It's the person. It's not the idea. It's the person. You are the right person to do what you're doing. Now, how do we broaden? Take off the limitations. Take out the dog fence. See where you can roam. Don't just think lateral, think vertical. I had there's a book called The Bible Code. Have you ever read it?
Mm-mm.
Oh, Daron. So it talks about, if you read the Bible in different ways, it predicts a lot of what's happened in our world. It's pretty amazing. A lot of craziness.
Yeah.
And then he says, read the Bible vertically. The first letter on page 1, now read it down. The first letter on page 2, first letter on page 3, first letter on page 4. What? And he literally does that, and it spells things and does things, and he reads it diagonally. And this is why I share this with you and your listeners. This was my takeaway from the book. Not that he's right or he's wrong, but he said, if you believe whatever your God is, and by the way, it takes computers to be able to do these things, to go through in light speed. He said, if you believe that your God is truly the greatest of all, don't you think when he wrote a book, he would have written it in a way that evolves with us? As we get smarter, as we learn more, shouldn't the Bible or the Quran or the Torah, shouldn't it grow with us? That blew my mind. So that as you grow, Daron, of 42?
43.
What's your age?
43.
That was not
bad.
That, as you grow as a person, so should your line of sight. That you said at the beginning of the podcast, I couldn't see it as a stupid 16-year-old.
Yeah.
Because you were designed that as you grow as a cognitive thinking, physical human being, your line of sight and reach grows with it. So the Daron of 43 should see more and do more and impact more than the Daron of 42, because you're smarter, you're more experienced. You breathed in and out an extra 762,000 times, and that's worth something.
Yeah.
You survived a pandemic. You learned lessons. So that's why I say to you, is you've built this incredible thing, and it's designed right because of who you are. Now, how do we expand it? Vertically, horizontally, and how do we expand the impact, the depth and intensity? Vertical and the horizontal is landscape. Los Angeles to Seattle, Tokyo to, and you're doing that in this podcast. And then vertically, what is the depth of what you're offering? It's books, it's live events, it's in-person sermon workshops, it's Bible study, it's whatever it is. You're growing the horizontal part of who you are. Now, how do you grow the intensity of who you are? And for me, there's two things that I've experienced in the COVID. Number one is that the less I care about what other people think, and the more true I am to myself, the more intense my message is. I'm unapologetic now. And I would say, we used to go, gosh, every kid, you really should have music in every kid's life. Now I say, listen, music's good for every kid. And if you haven't figured that out, you're either uneducated or you're ignorant. I mean, it's all there. I'm done apologizing. Yeah. Right? I'm right. And now understand, it sounds arrogant. That's not its intent. Hey, Daron, has a doctor ever apologized to tell you to lose weight and work out? Did they apologize after they told you that? Does a lawyer apologize for telling you to have a will and a trust and a plan for if something would happen to you? No, I didn't think so. Good. Does your parent apologize for telling you not to run out in the street without looking both ways?
Nope.
Because we don't apologize for saying what's right. And what's right for that child. I say it in defense of a child. I tell my kid to wear a helmet when he skateboards. I don't apologize for it because it's not in service of me, it's in service of him. So intensity comes from honesty, and honesty comes from not caring what other people think. And that is still a pathway I'm learning to walk. And the second thing I have found for me is I am at my best when I'm able to service a greater good. And for me, and Daron, you're in, I think, a similar space, I work as hard as I can to make everything I do either free or ridiculously cheap. And I don't do it, I do it selfishly. I mean, a lot of people always say, I teach for the children. And I always said, I didn't. I taught for me. I liked it. I enjoyed it. I want a teacher in front of my kid that's a martyr. I want to teach in front of my kid that's having a good time, right?
Yep.
I have found that I'm at my best when I'm able just to serve and just give things away. So I just found other ways to pay for it. Yeah. I go get sponsors. Yeah. I figure stuff out. I use different sponsors. But that's like where I'm at my most creative space. And that is what has changed because of COVID.
Yeah.
Is I became less caring about the outside world and more, I know what I believe and I know what I think is right in this world. And I want to get it out to as many people. And the only way to do that is free. So you've seen Be Part of the Music, and I think you've seen Be Part of the Music. Yeah. That's all free.
Yeah.
But from COVID, the day COVID hit to today, we doubled the size of our organization in terms of impacted people. So we went from about 14,000 teachers using our content to just over 27,000 teachers using our content.
Wow.
And that's what I live for. That's the number I watch, not the checking account. That's the number I watch because I'm like, man, 27,000. So I give you an idea, a bunch of content for parents. And I gave it away to teachers. And all they had to do was say, how many parents are you sending it to? It's over 385,000 parents who get our content every month on the first of the month. And that's like the stuff I'm like, giddy up, baby, let's go. You making any money? No, it's all free, but giddy up, baby. That's some killer crap right there, right?
Yeah.
Some lady in Bangladesh in her kimono is reading my, thing on why their kids should play clarinet.
Yes.
I want Joe Biden to name his next dog Bass Clef or something. That's my jam. Talk about tangent.
Oh, so good. Oh gosh.
Or, so in talking to you, because when the listener's listening, I walked you through, what are 5 things you don't want to change? What are your 3 blessings? What are your 3 curses? And then you designed your life and you're living it correctly in a meaningful way. And remember, you do the most good when you're doing what you're most good at. You're doing a lot of good because you're doing what you're most good at. Now, how do we go horizontal? And how do we go vertical? How do we make the fire burn more intense? Now, for me, the answer was I need distribution. Distribution requires it's free. So I can't do everything for free. Cameras cost money. That microphone costs money. So I found sponsors. That was my vehicle. My question to you is, what's your vehicle? And to the listeners, whether you're a teacher or you're a volunteer worker at a church or you're just someone who likes to give to the Red Cross, how do you grow yourself vertically? How do you grow yourself horizontally? And how do you intensify the fire? And that's a question, Daron, you just need to, while you're walking your dog, think through. Where can I go vertically? Okay, what's landscape, physical geography? How do I get to Chicago? How do I get to Phoenix? If I'm going to visit my mom and dad, how do I do a pub theology there? How do I franchise pub theology? How do I get more people in bars speaking the word of God? How do I do it in different languages? How do I do it in different topographies? So that's your horizontal growth.
Yeah.
Okay. And it may start with, we're going to do one in Terre Haute. Okay. That's a step. You're growing. Now, vertical. How am I doing it remotely? How am I doing it through curricula? How am I doing it for kids, teens, adults, and geriatrics? Growing that segment, making it more rich so that now I don't only know Daron when I'm 21 and wander into a bar. I know Daron through his work is with my youth group or with my children's book or and he takes me all the way through life until I'm in a nursing home where he does pub theology with sparkling cider. Is once we have people in, how do you grow the burn, the intensity of it? So that's something for you to think about. That would be, my advice to you or my guidance to you. Not that you need my guidance. You're a star on your own planet that's far eclipsed me, and you don't need my help. But it's hard not to be the teacher.
I love it. I love it, Scott. For me, Mr. Lang, what I love about what you just did in the past, 30 minutes or so is, as I've reflected on my life and the people that have had, great impact and helped shape me, even as I was prepping for this conversation, I realized that those 4 years of high school marching band with you, you didn't actually teach me to be necessarily a better drummer. Like Paul Welter kind of did that, right? Like you were a drummer and you knew, right? And you screamed at us and yelled at us and scared us when we played like crap, or when we decided to play a cadence in the back of a Penske truck in front of another
pickup truck going back from a damaged auditorium to Tempe High. Don't think I forgot about that. Daron was a bad seed. Everyone who's listening, when Daron speaks the word of God, know that he was a bad seed.
Hey, we all grow, it seemed like a smart move at that moment, but you let us know in no uncertain terms in the locker room back at the band room that it was not a good idea. So, but the thing was, as I look back, and I didn't even know it was happening when it was happening in high school, but you gave me a hunger for leadership and for development of people. And the leader that I became from my freshman year to my senior year absolutely catapulted me into everything that I did and have done in life. And when I look back at that, and I think, I'm passionate about marching band just because I still love playing drums. I still play now. And the best decision I ever made my freshman year was to quit football and to go do band, because it comes back to what you said. I no longer had joy for football. Every moment of playing drums gave me joy. and it unlocked a realm of
Right.
leadership and development that I didn't even know that I was having. And not every kid that is in marching band has that, but I had that because you had a passion and a vision and an intensity for leadership and development of us. And I will be forever indebted and forever, grateful to you, Mr.
Well, okay, first of all, thank you. Thank you. And I mean that, like, those are the moments that choke me up, but it's all a lie. So before I, go any further, everything you need to be successful in life, and I mean in all of life, was always inside you. I didn't teach you anything. You can't teach discipline. You can't teach commitment. You can't teach integrity. You can't teach honesty. You can't teach dedication. You can't teach empathy. Now, I can write a bunch of words on a whiteboard, but what you can do is give kids the room and the space to bring out what they have.
Mm.
So what you need to understand is that was always inside you. I can't put characters, if I said, Daron, I'm going to teach you to be passionate about knitting, no matter what I say, you're not going to be that person because that's not who you were born to be.
Yeah.
To make you passionate about percussion, to make you passionate about leadership, to make you passionate about music, I didn't do any of that. It was already there. I gave you the space and the time to find it and bring it out.
Mm. So good.
And as you travel, when I talk to kids, I always tell them, the greatest compliment you can give me is say, I'm leaving with more questions than answers. And I know that's trite, but I really mean that. And because the answers that you need are only answers that you have inside of you. And I can't make you something you're not. And someone said to me, well, you're a motivational speaker. I said, okay, Daron, can I motivate you to be a hate-filled bigot racist who doesn't believe in God? Can I motivate you to be that person?
Can't do it.
No, because I can't make you something you're not. People who deal in hate means they have hate inside of them. I didn't make them hateful. People who deal in love and empathy means they have it inside them. I didn't make that.
Yeah.
So as a fellow speaker, a preacher, your job, in my opinion, my job is to give the kids the space and time to find out what's inside of them and bring it out,
Yes.
whatever that is.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's not my job and not my decision what you take away from time with me. I can't control what Daron Earlewine got from 4 years of band. All I can do is give Daron Earlewine 4 years of my time and space. And then Daron's going to determine what he gets from band. The same kid that marched side by side with you for 4 years had a very different experience than you did, because that's what they chose.
Yeah. Yeah.
Someone will love your sermon and say it was the best you've ever given. Someone at the same sermon will say it's the worst. It's the choice that they make. All you can do is give them your space and your time. So I turn it back to you and say, congrats to you, man, for making those choices. And what an extraordinary human being you are that you had those things inside you. Like, what a shame it would have been had they not seen the light of day. And how many kids and how many adults live a life where their best qualities don't see the light of day. Like I get drugs and alcohol. I get depression. Like that, the thought of living a life where my best qualities don't see the light of day.
Yeah.
That's a dark place, man. Let it out. Let your best qualities out. That's a job of a teacher.
Yeah. Yeah.
How can I help you? How can I help you?
You just did. You just did. I'm so fired up right now. I just want to get off the podcast so I can just go start living more. I mean, it was just so good. And it's so much of what honestly, it's funny. I know you're Scott, but it's so deep within me. You're Mr. Lang, but, Scott, what you just did is so much. You basically just took me through so much of what this past year has been for me. Like, I mean, same way your business got closed. Like, I thought I was supposed to be a syndicated radio host. Like, I had a radio show for 3.5 years and it was growing. It was great. And then in one phone call, it's like, you don't have a radio show. Nope, it's gone. And it's not coming back for the foreseeable future. And it's like, edit, change, whatever, come up with the podcast, like all the different things we're doing. But it gave me, this whole past year gave me a moment to realize it's like I have permission to become who God created me to be, which is the whole message of the podcast. But the problem for me is I was trying to chase so many of my own ideas. I wasn't even giving myself permission to actually do what I tell everybody else to do. And so much of the book that I'm writing right now is all about this journey and all about, where I've been through it. And it's like, I just now, it's like you're talking about like this, getting this passion of it to be able to be like, yes, if I'm going to teach this to people around the world, like I've got to live it myself. And I don't think I would have given myself the permission to actually do what I'm doing now and edit my life down to say, no, this is what I do because it's why I was put on earth to do it. I don't think I get it without this, without COVID.
I agree. COVID has been a game changer, and I'll share this with you, because it's not a music audience.
Yeah.
The people who hear this aren't going to be people that I work with, because what I'm going to share is not public in any way, shape, or form in my world.
Yeah.
I was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. They were telling me to get my affairs in order. And 2 surgeries, 136 staples, radiation, and they told me you have about a 15% chance to live. And I would have never caught it if it weren't for COVID. I would have been on the road. My wife was screaming at me, go to the dermatologist. And I had this little bump on my head. But I had stuff everywhere. And they're doing like, oh, that's nothing. And I'm like, well, just take it out. I'm not on the road. I don't care. It had been there, but I'm always on the road and I didn't want a scar on my head. They're like, it's nothing. Well, it turned out to be a 1 millimeter wide is stage 4. I had a 7 millimeter wide and 7 millimeter deep tumor in my head.
Oh my God.
And I'm talking to you cancer-free today. If it weren't for COVID, they would have never caught it. It would have been too late. COVID literally gave me my life. And I don't want him to think it's a crutch or a speaking tool, so I have told no one in the education space. Only my close friends and family know.
Wow.
COVID saved my life. I really believe that.
Wow.
It's just find the bucket of blessings, people. Find the bucket of blessings and run to your joy. That would be my advice to people. Find your bucket of blessings and run to your joy.
Scott, Mr. Lang, whatever we're going to call you here for the podcast. Listen, it has been the time that you spent with me in high school and all the way through, and this time that is impacted so much. So I want people to be able to spend more time with you. How can they get connected? How can they stay connected?
So if you want to talk to Scott Lang, the leadership guy, that's all well and good. It's Scott at scottlang.net, or go to scottlang.net. Do not Google my name. You get 674,000 pages of Ant-Man. And that's true, by the way. 674,000 pages of Ant-Man. But if you really want to know about my passion, go to bepartofthemusic.org. That's www.bepartofthemusic.org. That's where we teach people about the importance of music in the lives of kids and the impact that it can have on people like you, Daron.
It did. And we're back. I couldn't even give you the regular, and we're back, because holy buckets, the end of the podcast. Are you, what? Find your bucket of blessing, run towards your joy. COVID saved his life. What? I wasn't ready, friends. You saw, if you watch here on YouTube, you saw I was not ready. I wasn't ready. It's like the 5th time I've seen the interview. I'm still trying to soak it in right now. I'm still trying to gather myself and be in this moment with you. I guarantee you, if you're mowing your lawn, look back at the last couple lines. I guarantee they're crooked. You can't mow straight lines and have people dropping bombs of truth and inspiration like that on you. It can't happen. If you fell off the treadmill, I'm sorry. Listen, you can't sue us. It was your fault. You're clumsy and you were distracted and inspired. I get it. Put some ice on it. Get a little ibuprofen. It'll feel better tomorrow. Listen, are you kidding me? Find the bucket of blessing and run towards your joy. It is so, so good. And then what Scott Lang says, what if your best self never sees the light of day? That is what makes me wake up every morning and keep doing what I'm doing, is the passion I have to not allow you to waste your life. You get one of these. Do you realize that? That's what I got to keep telling myself, because here's what happens. I keep getting older. I don't know about you. Are you getting older? I'm getting older. We keep getting older. The days become weeks. The weeks become months. The months become years. And if you are not making the choices to become who you were born to be, you're wasting your life. And listen, don't wait for another global pandemic. Don't wait for a cancer diagnosis. Don't wait for some tragedy to come into your life. Just make the decision today to begin to choose to run toward your joy. And you want to know where your joy is? Your joy is as you step into becoming who you were created to be. The joy is as you step into the reality that you were created on purpose and for a purpose. The joy comes as you wake up every morning and you say, you know what? God is for me, not against me. Therefore, I can go out and I can do it. I can forgive. I can risk. I can start again. Whatever the thing is, I can move through the fear. I can choose the courage because I'm running to my joy. And I know that God is near me. He's not far away. He's right here with me. He's within me. We're going for this, because here's the other good news, right? It's already in you. That's what set me on fire with spiritual DNA, was when I read in 2 Peter, right? 2 Peter 1, 3-4. It's the core scripture verse for spiritual DNA, the online course and live workshop, where Peter says this: everything we could ever need for life and godliness has already been deposited in us by his divine power. Stop the podcast. Stop it all. Stop. You're running around wasting your life on crap that you don't need, on a stupid job, on relationships that go nowhere, on addictive patterns and habits, and just seeking pleasure or power or whatever you are. Stop wasting your life. Because as you enter a relationship with Jesus, if you haven't done, what are you waiting for? You doing your life on your own? How's it working out for you? Let me guarantee you, not very well. So start following Jesus, who created and sustains all things, and created and designed and came up with you as an idea and gave you gifts and abilities and talents and burdens and everything that makes you you. Get in on that, because once you do that, everything you could ever need for life and godliness has already been deposited in you by his divine power. When you come to life and begin following Jesus, his spirit puts within you, within your spiritual DNA, everything you need. It's already in you. So then it's every day. COVID or not COVID, cancer or not cancer, whatever it is, waking up and choosing to become who you were born to be, what is already in you. Stop thinking and acting like a child. Start walking into the maturity of the life of faith and hope and love and joy that brings your greatest joy and God's greatest glory. How do you do it? You just keep reading here, right? For all this was lavished upon us through the rich experience of knowing him. Who is him? Jesus, who has called us by name. Golly, it's so good. It's so good. Why do you read the Bible? Because it's my devotions in the morning. No, you read it because it's so freaking good. You need this. I need this. It's all been lavished on us. What's been lavished on us? Everything we need for life. Everything. It's already lavished. Lavished is not like it was like a thumb, like a little dripper, drip, drip of God's love, and drip, drip. It's not a drip. Not a drip. Now, in common slang right now, you do have great drip, right? Very drip. It's a very wet, it's a whole drip swag situation of all God's love and gifts. Sound like a dad trying to use new slang. It's embarrassing. Dang it, laugh track. I was getting fired up. Then I tried to connect with the youths. Let it go. Let it go. Let it go. What was I saying? Here it is. It's been lavished on us by the rich experience of knowing him who has called us by name and invited us to come to him through a glorious manifestation of his goodness. He's invited you by name. He's lavished his love on you by name. He's invited you. And as a result of this invitation, he's given you magnificent promises that are beyond all price, so that through the power of these tremendous promises, we can experience partnership with the divine nature. There's your spiritual DNA, my friends. By living by the protein promises of God's word, you begin to participate with the divine nature by which you have escaped the corrupt desires that are of the world. Blessings and curses. You know, I keep thinking that we record a podcast, boom, there it is, favorite episode ever. Then until the next one, hello, Scott Lang. Golly, let's get back to THS, Tempe High School Marching Band. The Buffaloes wearing white and blue, the Tatankas, that's the actual word for buffalo in some Native American tongue that I'm not clear on. We're the Tatankas. We were the Buffaloes. We were a great marching band because we were led by a dude that was firing us up to just live and become what we were created to be. Goodness gracious. All right, that's it. We got to wrap it up. I'm out of time. Have you done it? Here's what you're doing. You're writing down the 3 blessings and 3 curses. What are your best 3 blessings? What are the curses? You just heard me go through it. You saw, I didn't even know it. I kind of did know it. I do spiritual DNA. I do what I tell people to do. But when I was reminded by writing it down and thinking through it with Scott Lang that, holy crap, I have actually done what I tell people to do. I am living. I'm becoming who I was born to be. This is it. And you know what? It's very rare that I wake up on a Monday morning and think to myself, I hate my life and my job. I don't ever think that. There's some days I'm like, I don't want to go to work today. I'd rather sit here, drink coffee, and play video games or hang out with my kids or my wife. But I live with a lot of joy because you want to know what? God created it, but I've chosen it. And so can you. Write them down, 3 blessings, 3 curses, and redesign your life around joy, around calling, around purpose. What are the 5 things, right, that you learned through COVID that you want to leverage, that you want to choose to change your life? Write it down, redesign around joy, and choose your life. Oh. Whew. There's somebody in your life that you need to share this episode with. Bottom line, somebody in your life, I want you to think about it. I want you to pray about it. They're at a place right now and you go, you know what? They need this. I want you to text them a link. Be like, listen, the dude that hosts this, a little crazy. Stick with him. It'll be worth it. Okay? Somebody needs this episode. I needed this episode. I didn't know how bad I needed this episode. And what's crazy, what God's doing in my life right now, he keeps reconnecting me with people that were in my life 25 years ago, 17 years ago. I just sat down with one of my original mentors that was a big part of my life right when I was starting ministry. Out of nowhere, I get a text from him. Hey, what's up? I didn't even think he was in the state. I thought he lived in Colorado. We had McAllister's this week. McAllister's so good. You have a McAllister's wherever you live? It's so good. You got to get the chopped chicken Savannah salad. So good. And the chicken tortilla soup. Definitely get a pickle. I don't know what they're trying to do at McAllister's right now, where they're not just giving you the pickle. They used to have a bucket of pickles. You get all the pickles you wanted. Now you can't get the pickles. Why can't I get the pickles? COVID didn't do something to pickles. Okay, the pickles are pickles, and they're not COVID in the pickles. So let me scoop my own pickles, McAllister's. Sorry. Sat down with my mentor again. Here's what I think God's doing in my life. I think God's connecting me with people that I forgot that began to stir dreams and visions in my life, because God's calling me back into a deeper place to become who I was created to be. And like I said in this interview with Scott Lang, COVID gave me the permission to begin editing my life and choosing to run towards my joy. And it can give you the same thing if you choose it. See you later. See you later. How about that episode 46? Take that and put it in your pipe and smoke it. Or as Eric Church would say, put that in your country song. I'm feeling a little bit spry, a little bit happy today. Been running towards joy. Sunshine outside. It's Wednesday. Listen, I want to hear from you. Send me an email. Send me a tweet. Hit me up on Facebook, Instagram, slide into my DMs, whatever the kids say these days. I can't say that. I just said it. 317-550-5070, Daron at blackbirdmission.com, Facebook, Instagram, all the things. Whew, you might have to listen to this episode twice, let's be honest. Love you, dudes. So good. These are good days, bro. So good. Hey, we'll talk to you next week. I'm going to be fired up. Listen, I know the episodes that are coming up after this one, they're just going to keep getting better. I'm going to be fired up about those too. Here's the deal. God's for you, not against you. He's near you, not far from you. And he's created you on purpose and for a purpose. Time for you to choose it. See you next week, friends, right here on the Daron Earlewine podcast.